streaming live through the internet airwaves on your phone, tablet, or computer on Facebook Live and YouTube. It's time for the Dallas Prospect. Every legend was once a prospect. Here are your hosts, Law Nation, Silver and Blue Nation's Big Game James, and Darreck Diamond Dallas Prospect.
I feel like I got it just because I feel like I got it. I've been gone a week. I feel it.
Yes, but you're back in the mix, man. That's all that
I
matters.
am back. It feels
Man,
good
we
to be
got
back.
a full show for everybody. We got DDP in the house, got Ari, my guy. We also got Cam. Hey, although I'm spitting out everybody's name, I just want to tell you guys, y'all seeing this beautiful setup through the one and only. I'm talking about the biggest, the baddest, the nicest, slickest, most craftiest guy ever of all time. This producer G, man. He's setting up everything as we're doing everything on the fly. Hey, Ari, man, tell them how they can get to your show, how they can find your content and everything.
Yeah, producer G is the man, by the way. I'm Ari Temkin, and you can check me out on Twitter at Ari Sports, or I do a show every day on FANTOM, Facebook's live sports network, the new world order of sports media. Go to facebook.com/watch FANTOM, and I do a lot of Cowboys stuff. And, Law and Dallas Prospect are partners of ours. So, you guys are nice enough to let me cross-post the streams onto your pages as well. So they can find us there, or Dallas Prospect, or at Law Nation page as well on Facebook.
Yes, indeed. That's what I'm talking about. This is good stuff right here. And Darreck, go ahead and tell them everything, man. Go ahead and tell them.
Well, first, you can find the website at thedallasprospect.com. We're also on Facebook and YouTube. We are your home for Dallas sports and pop culture. So even if you're not a huge sports fan for whatever reason, we got gaming, film reviews, lists, rankums, breakdowns, whatever, man. We cross the spectrum in all regards. Even got concert reviews and interviews. I did a really cool interview and acoustic show this a couple weeks ago with a local band in Dallas that we put up on the site. So that was really cool as well. Hoping to do more of those in the future. But yeah, yes, check it out.
Yes, indeed. That's good stuff. And Cam, let them know who you are and where they can find your page and things of that nature.
And you can find me at Cam. I mean, look, guys, I don't have a YouTube page just yet, but it's coming up. It's coming up soon. So I'm gonna give you a lot of information. But basically, you can catch me at my Facebook page, Cameron Gatewood. And man, I wish I could give y'all more where to find me.
More here in the future with Dallas Prospect and Law Nation.
Guys, in the future.
Yes, indeed, man. That's good stuff, man. That's good stuff, man. Thank you for joining on. And so we're going to talk to real. I'll be remiss to say that we have Silver and Blue Nation in the house too as well. Even though he's gone, he's not here. He's out and about. Big Game James, please don't forget about that too as well. And the Silver and Blue Nation, we shooting live on their page too as well. Shout out to all of the subscribers. Don't forget to hit rate us 5 on everything. Put us 5 in the box. And don't forget to do this. If you can't make the donation to help grow the nation, please just like and share the video. Share. That's how we get the information and the word out. With all that being said, I'm going to let Ari kick everything else out.
You want me to start it off?
Yeah, I want you to start it off, man. I'm going to roll behind you. I'm going to just go with your flow.
All right.
He was enamored with your show the other day.
Well, I appreciate that very much. I guess the biggest talking point, right, from OTAs as they conclude today would be, the two guys that didn't play, two of the guys that didn't play. Well, maybe the biggest stories were the three guys that didn't play. David Irving's apparently fat. Zack Martin is holding out, but I don't think that's a big story at all. And Terrance Williams had his little rendezvous with the police, and he wouldn't have been playing anyways because he's got a broken foot. Yep. So, the three biggest things to come out of training camp, or the first OTA for the Cowboys, is a bunch of guys that didn't even play, didn't even participate.
Yeah, most certainly. And I can just elaborate. And this is just my flow of how I do things here. Pretty much so with David Irving being fat and out of shape. Hey, we heard this story before, right? Remember D-Law last year around this exact same time? It was like, look, D-Law looked like he been packing on a lot of weight, eating a lot of donuts or whatever he's doing. He's trying to be the Tank Lawrence originally. He's trying to be an original Tank, basically. And that year showed out for him. He showed up and showed out. So, DDP, what are your reservations on David weight gain?
So David Irving's obviously had already a little bit of an eventful offseason. All the, social media drama, Twitter drama he had with his, I guess now ex-girlfriend. We didn't really have it earmarked as like a segment because it happened a little while back, but obviously all the drama he had, family drama, not just in their apparent breakup, but then having to basically put in and get custody of his daughter then. So a lot of crazy drama there for him. I can kind of understand the distraction, but man, for him, this is a make or break year because they matched his tender. I don't think Dallas is ultimately factoring him into long-term plans. I think they're looking at this as they want a highly motivated David Irving who's going to go out beast for them, and then they're going to let someone else pay him big money to go elsewhere because I think their viewpoint is that, and we've heard this from inside the Star a little bit as well, that there is a lot of drama there that doesn't come out to the public. Like he's been referred to essentially as like a ticking time bomb. So they don't want to factor into that long term. I think they're hoping they get a highly motivated year where he puts up big numbers, and then they're going to basically even though I've been a huge proponent of wanting him long term, it seems like their thinking is get this year and then let him be someone else's problem. So
that's
not
a good perspective there because the writing is on the wall. Like you said, you still have the Charles Tappers of the world. You have the Dorrance Armstrong guy. You have the Tacos out there, understand. I guess with an extra year, maybe he has more seasoning on his belt. And then you also have the Randy Gregory coming back, hopefully. So, yeah, you spoke the truth. And then Coney Ely. So there are people out there putting in places to actually take over his position if he does not show up, if he somehow, some way gone, not showing up for 2019. Cam, what's up? What's your thoughts on this?
Well, I just think that for David Irving just to be gaining weight like that, I'm trying to figure out is he trying to gain weight to better bulk up to get through the offensive line a little bit better, and be a little bit more stronger and move a little bit more because when you gaining weight like that, it's kind of like it's kind of like just.
There is something to that. There is something to that, though, because there was talk that, a few weeks ago, there was talk that he was looking to play at a higher weight. So maybe, hopefully, idealistically, it is something slight to that nature where he's just looking to, play at a higher weight and he just needs to trim it back just a little bit, or perhaps it's something where he just needs to burn off a little bit of the excess fat to keep the overall gains. Hopefully it's something minor like that. But now that you mentioned that, there is something I do recall hearing that he was looking to play at a higher weight anyway this year.
Yeah, you already got a J. Howard Ward for that. You got a J. Howard Ward who's a bigger David Irving. I think that David Irving need to stay his same size. To me, from what he was doing last year, he was dominant. The few games that he did play, I think that he was even comparable to what D-Law was doing out there. So I think that he need to get back to the formula of getting back to the size that he was last year and continue to fight and push out there on that line. If we need a big guy, 7.5 sacks in 8 games, that's remarkable. But Ari, you was about to say something?
Well, yeah, I mean, the issue I think from the observers was that he was overweight, but I mean, Jason Garrett basically said he was out of shape, and that's why he wasn't practicing. So, I mean, I just don't think it's a by design trying to bulk up kind of thing. And the other thing too about Irving, guys, is he has more production over a longer period of time than DeMarcus Lawrence does. I think we just think of Lawrence as being this beast, and granted he was last year, but until last year, Lawrence was kind of, a disappointment for a second round pick. So, look, Irving, I think you're right. He's combustible. There's certainly some unknowns about him. There's a reason why he went undrafted with all the talent and athleticism that he has. But I mean, if you look at, body of work, David Irving's put up more consistent numbers throughout the course of his career than DeMarcus Lawrence. So, I like both of them going into this year, highly motivated, trying to earn a bit long-term contracts. And I think, to your guys' point, they've got other guys in the stable, Dorrance Armstrong and Coney Ely and, Randy Gregory and Taco and other guys that they think, coming up the pike that could potentially, become kind of a second, third sort of pass rushers for them behind Lawrence. But I think Irving at this point right now is their number one pass rusher. So for him to be out of shape, I mean, it's early, it's still May, but it's just not a good start.
The calls to pause, right? And what my biggest reservation is on this front four anyway is the interior. Collins is not going to be there, and then you got your Jay Howard, and we know that Crawford never been a promising guy that you can just pencil in and say he's going to give me the production that I want. He's going to be the guy that's going to be the explosive guy that play into the inside. And we have the unknown variables. Who we have out there? Price, Asher, and Osborne. I think that's a guy that's going to try to play the 1 and the 0 if we go that set. So I don't think that this team is designed. And although I know I'm hyped on this defense, I trust Chris to put everybody in the right positioning as far as the secondary and the linebacker core. But that front four, I'm just still having my doubts just as it relates to the interior. So what's your thoughts on that?
I think we having our doubts because we don't have a good tackle. You know what I mean? We don't have that really good inside guy. We have good edge rushers, but our tackle, it just, we just getting ran through the ball, and the ball is just running through us this nonstop.
Yeah.
So I think that's where it's coming from everybody's having a little doubts from. I mean, because we just have good rushers, some edge rushers, but the tackle part, who's there? You know what I mean?
Well, Terrell McClain thing's interesting, right, guys? I mean, Terrell McClain was a beast for them in the middle a couple of years ago. He's a true one. It's puzzling why he'd go to Atlanta. I don't think money was the issue, though we know the Cowboys are, they don't like to sign outside free agency if you consider it an outside free agent. But I was kind of surprised. I think the Cowboys were kind of surprised that they didn't sign Terrell McClain. And I wonder what the reasoning was. I wonder why he picked Atlanta. I wonder if it was a money thing.
Yeah, I mean that is a good point because I actually think the Cowboys, they had the flexibility financially that they could have paid him. They could have won a bidding war for him. And I think that maybe they tried to kind of lowball it, not wanting to spend more than they had. They'd been pretty frivolous. Like they'd gotten a nice free agency haul considering what they spent, but they didn't spend big on anybody.
No, right.
So maybe that backfired on them, perhaps.
Now, is Atlanta becoming the next Redskins team because they got Jack Crawford, I think the year before. Yeah,
True.
Did they get somebody else? Did they win squeeze? Then they got McClain down, and then did Durant, he originally played for Atlanta, or did he went to Atlanta? What was his story?
Durant, I think, was drafted by Atlanta. Does anyone have confirmation on that?
I don't know for sure.
Not sure, no.
I can look it up one sec.
Yeah, but
keep talking. I'll join you.
No, it's just one of those things. Whereas, so what? He's gone. I understand that a lot of people had high hopes for him playing down,
but he came from Atlanta before Dallas.
Oh, okay, so that's what it was. Okay, but neither here nor there. We had chances and opportunities to draft a guy that we can put to the inside. So we're gonna actually see whether or not a Schultz was a better option for us. And I'm just going to move along towards, I know it could be out of order, but Schultz probably be the guy that we could have said, okay, at this point in the draft, maybe we can get a defensive guy that can fit into the inside. If we knew what Rico Gathers was going to do this year, I say all the time that we coddle our players. And I do know that people have different views of this. A lot of people was going back and forth with me on Twitter and Instagram saying that no, Cowboys don't coddle their players. They knew for sure that Rico was not going to be able to contribute last year, and that's why they kind of stashed him on the injury reserve. I come from a different outlook. I'm coming from the aspect of, if you saying that you can play, if you have the physical ability to get out there and play, and I used a 6th-round draft pick, and I paid you big time money like you was a draft player or what have you, even when you went to the practice squad originally or whatever. I think that you should get out there and at least learn something. Tight end is the third hardest position to learn.
I think their hand was kind of forced on that. Go on, Cam.
Yeah, he can't block. That's the reason why this is slowing down on him, man. I think they're trying to quiet on the Rico Gather situation and just focus on Short. How do you say his name? Schultz.
Dalton Schultz.
Yeah, I think they're trying to focus on Schultz instead of Rico Gathers. I'm gonna think they're gonna end up cutting him. You know what I mean? Because you ever notice that they're really not trying to talk about Rico like that. Yep. They talking about Schultz, and the other tight ends behind
Jeff
him.
Swain, Jarwin,
Swain, all them, yeah. But Rico Gathers, man, I think first he was focused on rapping, and then I don't know, man. It's just Rico. I would love to see Rico. He looks like a great receiver, big guy, body, He looked like he could run, have that speed, but at the same time, we still need somebody to block too, So
right.
I don't know, I mean, what do y'all think? What do y'all think about Rico?
I think you're right about Rico, man. I mean, I think he came in with a lot of hype and people have high expectations for him, but I mean, he never played organized football. So I mean, to expect him to come in and contribute in a meaningful way on an NFL team, like I think, Cameron, I think you're 100% correct. I don't think he's going to make this team. I don't think he's shown any progress. He said during OTAs when he was interviewed, like that he was fine to go for the majority of the year last year, but the Cowboys held him out. Like what else? Like what else does that say?
He even mentioned contributing, like showing out, whether it was for this team or elsewhere. He even had, like, I'm slightly paraphrasing, but he did have a comment that even. So he's maybe even telegraphing.
I've seen that too.
You 6'7", 285 pounds. You down there in the red zone, money zone, green zone. You got to figure out a way to get out there on the field. You got to be hungry enough to say, hey, coach, I want to play. I'm going to learn, because blocking is more mental than anything. Even if I do know that there's certain techniques and things like that. But if you fool around and say, hey, he can't block, that's just a lost call. That's a wasted space on the roster. You might as well just say, hey, I'm going to figure out a way to trade you, or I'm going to figure out a way to just get you off the team. I do know the splash in the pan and all last season during the preseason. Everybody like, Rico. And we saw the highlights of the kid. But that doesn't mean anything.
He's an athletic freak, no doubt. But it is interesting. It is interesting whenever they bring out, like when Stephen Jones is talking about him, when he's talking about the tight end crop, he'll mention Jarwin, Swaim, and then now he's even mentioning Schultz. And when he references Rico last, he always mentions it as a work in progress, which to me signifies that if he's like excited about the other guys, but Rico's just a work in progress, that kind of signifies, for whatever reason, they're not that high on him yet. Like they like what they think he could do, but for whatever reason, he's not showing them enough to, demand the reps, basically. Because he's out of excuses now. If we wanted to point to Witten and being, I've said this a dozen times on the show, Witten played the most snaps of any tight end in the league last year. Mm-hmm. And that excuse is gone now with Witten being retired. And maybe Schultz being drafted at all was the combination of James Hanna and Witten retiring. So you really had tremendous question marks at tight end. Maybe that forced them to take a tight end in the 4th round when otherwise they might not have been necessarily thinking that. But it's on Rico now. If he's going to do something, if he's going to show out, this is his 3rd year with Dallas. I know he didn't play since middle school, but you got to show him something. And they know you can catch. They know you can do what you did last preseason. You got to show that you can do the stuff in between.
Yes, indeed. So, Ari, man, what you think?
Man, everybody's talking about the T. Will thing on the chat. We should probably get into that.
T. Will. All right. Yeah.
You know how stalling T. Will.
Yeah, solid T. Will go in and get him. Yeah.
DDP, go ahead. Give me your thoughts on Terrance Williams. Terrance Tyrone Williams.
That is not a pretty face plant there on the video, the GIF, whatever that's kind of circulating. That's rough.
Did he get out of bounds?
No, man, I don't think he did. I think he face planted on the chalk line. But yeah, no, talk about a guy having a rough offseason, man. Not only is the entire receiving core turned over, we know it's not financially viable for the Cowboys to cut him straight up right now. And perhaps that's why he's survived to this point when guys like Dez were shown the door. But, man, you look at not just that changeup, but then him breaking his foot knowing he's going to be out for a while. You know, basically then getting mad at the fans for essentially saying, like, oh, that dooms him here. He's done here. You know, he swears, like, oh, I'll have the last laugh on this. This isn't – you're not laughing yet, T. Will. Like, this is not a good look. Not only do you get now, he only got hit for public intoxication that I saw. So basically crashed the Lambo, whether you believe it's to the light pole. His lawyer says no, but I've seen other stuff saying that there's literally like a light pole laying there at the scene. Yeah. So pretty much hit the light pole, ditched the car, and then tried to come back to the scene on like an electric bike. When he's being pulled over on the way back, starts swerving and just face plants right into the curb. Like, ugly look. And then he's caught in like a million lies too. Ari, did you have the specific quotes on that earlier?
So first of all, he said it was Kendall Wright was driving his car. Kendall Wright, who plays for the Vikings now, used to play for the Bears, played for a bunch of teams, but he was his teammate at Baylor. So he basically blamed Kendall Wright. And in the video, he like totally throws him under the bus. Like, yeah, it was that dumbass Kendall Wright who, and
D'Angelo Russell type of deal, huh?
Meanwhile, Terrance Williams had the keys to the Lambo on him, and his car, his cell phone was in the car. So I mean, it's like,
you know what? I mean, he's gonna get away with it though.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and even if he gets charged, I don't think he'll get suspended. Even if he does end up getting charged and convicted of the charge, whatever. I mean, it's not like it'll translate.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. So I mean, he's not going to get suspended. It won't mean anything. And DDP, to your point, I mean, they're not going to. It would cost them $7 million against the cap in dead money if they cut him.
Yeah.
It cost them $4 million against the cap to keep him. But I'll tell you this: it's his last year in Dallas because next year they cut him. It's $2 million against the cap as opposed to the $4 million against the cap he'd cost if they kept him. Yep. So unless Terrance Williams does this year what he hasn't done in the previous 5 years, which is be effective consistently, it's going to be hard for them to keep him moving forward, I would think.
If he does get suspended, that changes the guaranteed money situation, which then makes it where it is viable or at least a push if they were to cut him. So that remains a possibility. I think to some degree they might be kind of crossing their fingers hoping he gets suspended, and they're just kind of sitting back right now.
How strong is his face, though? I mean, how did he not get his face shattered? He went over the handlebars.
That mugshot looks pretty good considering how bad that fall was.
Yeah, man, it's crazy, man. So now is the time that we relying on Roger Goodell to actually suspend a Dallas Cowboys player. Ain't that something?
Twist.
Oh, man, ain't that something? That's crazy. But my thing is with T. Will and those who out there who love the libations, please don't drink and drive. Always find you a Uber or a Lyft or a best friend that's not Kendall Wright, unfortunately, undoubtedly. So the thing is with this, guys, he's signed a $17 million contract. Is that correct?
Approximately, yeah.
Approximately. So what was his stat production last year? Do anybody know that?
No touchdowns.
No touchdowns. Probably less than 50 catches. I know for sure, right?
I'll have it for you in just a sec.
Yeah. So while I'm talking about this, we saw what we done all offseason. We got some guys that's going to come into the mix, multiple slot guys. We got an Allen Hurns of the world. We have a Deontay Thompson. We have a Cedric Wilson. We have also a Noah Brown, a Lance Lenoir. So we got a crowded receiving core. And I think that the production, and I think we also have Cole Beasley. The production of T. Will just doesn't speak volumes of him being on his team, like you said, Ari. So it may be best for us to go ahead and hope for the suspension and for us to part ways. I hate to say it because I pretty much like the kid. I like what he can bring to the team in fashions when he's playing in the zone. Sweet feet. He catches the ball when it's needed, and he helped win the game against Seattle Seahawks.
Yep.
You know. So
last year he had 53 catches for 568 yards, 0 TDs, on average of 10.7 a pop.
Wow.
So yeah, very, very big. I mean, the entire receiving corps stepped back last year, but he was one of the more notable ones. Like I know we put a lot on Dez, and a lot of that I do think, a fair bit of it, at least, I think was justified. The criticism Dez got last year. Dak deserves a lot too, obviously, but I do think T. Will, his drop off as a second receiver was substantial, and I think it just exacerbated an already problematic situation.
Let me ask y'all this, everybody in here. How in the world did we average 25 plus points for the first 8 games? How did we do that? What happened?
Terrance Smith got hurt.
Okay.
Yeah.
Terrance Smith is everything.
It just shows how, because in the last 8 games, they had Tyron Smith and Zeke together on the field for a total of 3 snaps.
Mm-hmm.
So that was everything. If you have your two, you could look at it as 2 of your top 5, if not top 3 players in a sense on the field. If you have them, if you got your best protector and your all-pro running back, your offense is going to move better than if you're dealing with Alfred Morris or, I like Rod Smith, but he's not Zeke. So if you're dealing with some combination of that and, freaking Chaz Green over there as well. So
I think too,
it changes the dynamic.
And I mean, Zeke's a guy you have to plan for defensively. Like every week, he's as good as a Julio Jones or Antonio Brown. Like he's a number one guy that defenses have to game plan for every week. So when you don't, it just changes the way teams defend you. And so it just, I think everything that went right for Dak his rookie year, when he was the offensive rookie of the year and arguably the MVP of the NFL, went wrong for him in year 2. And so, if I were to bet, I'd say Dak is the guy. I know there are a lot of people that are questioning that, but if I were to bet, I'd say he is. But I think the people that are questioning it have a right to question it based on one really good year and then one down year. But again, he didn't have the complements to his game, Tyron Smith at left tackle and a running game. And I think the big thing moving forward, guys, is Tyron Smith's 27, but he's an old 27. He started, I think his rookie year, he was 19. He was the youngest player in the NFL when he started. He's got a bad back. It's horrible to watch because he's one of the best left tackles ever. He's so good, but it's just they have to have a viable replacement for him if that bad back acts up again. And
Let me ask you a hard question then. Let me ask you a hard question with this then. So we averaged anywhere from 28 to maybe 30 points for the first 5 or 6 games, right?
Yep.
So if this year coming up, do you see that same explosiveness with this offense, or you don't see that at all? Or what do you actually see?
Me personally, I think if Zeke plays in 16 games, they're going to be a top 5 offense. And I just think it's that simple. He's that good. He's that dynamic. He does that much for them. So, yeah, I think they will be that explosive if Zeke is there and healthy and available, and there's every indication he will be.
And when I remove this too as well, what about this defense? Top 8, now you're talking about a top 5 offense and you sprinkle in this defense. Where's the defense going to be? Is it going to be beyond the 8, or is it going to be somewhere in the mid-range, like 15, 16 overall for the first 5 or 6 games?
That's the wild card. And here's the thing too, guys. Like you look at all the Super Bowl champs the last couple of decades. They're either top 5 in offense or defense. You don't have to be top 5 in both to win a Super Bowl. You know what I mean? Like and the majority of teams that win Super Bowls are top 5 in offense. There's exceptions. The Broncos a few years back were an exception, but for the most part, right, the Ravens. But for the most part, the Super Bowl champs every year are top 5 in offense. But so, I guess what I'm saying is they don't have to be top 5 in offense and defense. But it's hard to think their defense would be worse than it was last year. They've added younger players. Their secondary is older. I think their secondaries can be great. I think.
Yeah.
There's questions at safety, but Byron Jones and Awuzie at your starters with Jordan Lewis and everything. Those three are ballers. I think Jordan Lewis is going to be a baller.
Yeah, no doubt. Cam, what you got? What do you think?
Well, I think the Dallas Cowboys offense, I think they're going to be I'll say top 5 with Zeke. Yes, with Zeke going to be around, but I really want to see what our receiver core going to be like, because we have a lot of speed. We didn't have that at first. We didn't have that at all. But our defense, the secondary, they're moving Byron Jones, the cornerback. He's great. He's really good, man. But who's going to take his spot? Who's going to be that slot guy? Who's going to cover the tight end? You know what I'm saying? Then you have Jeff Heath. He's okay. You know what I'm saying? He really can't. To me, I feel like he can really cover like that. But then you have, Kayvon Frazier. He just a hard hitter. But the covering situation, it just, it's okay, but it's not there like that. So I'm just really trying to figure out what we're gonna do. Because we got a lot of undrafted free agents, and that has that. What Chris Richards said. That has that built what he wants. So I'm really want to see what we're gonna do. Because I don't know if we're gonna be a top,
top 10.
Top 10. I'm saying we might be right at 10.
Okay. I think you on offense, you really hit a good point there that we covered it kind of before, but it's good to bring it up again. One of the things that we really wanted with the receiving core, the changeover, we said we needed speed and we needed guys that were explosive. They have that in spades now. Now they don't necessarily have, they don't have a number one receiver, but just like the philosophy with running backs kind of changed, although Dallas drafting Zeke at number 4 kind of goes counterintuitive to their logic for letting DeMarco go. But they kind of view it where you don't need a number one receiver. If you look at a team like Philadelphia last year, Alshon Jeffrey, he's borderline one, but that was another team that won. Now he's a guy that can go get up and jump ball. He's not a slot guy, but you're talking about a team that doesn't have like a true number one and it's receiver by committee. You can win with that formula, especially if you're a team whose identity is built on running the ball. So if they have Zeke 16 games, if they have Tyron healthy and able to play, let's say 13, 14 games, I think this will be a top 5 offense. I think we'll see a team closer to we saw the first 8 games, at least in terms of offensive production. I think they'll be better defensively, but I don't think they have a super easy schedule considering a 9-7 record. But defensively, I think they improved across the board as well. You get another year of experience on a very talented set of prospects in the secondary. You move Byron Jones. I don't think Byron's a good safety. I think he works much better at corner, and you're putting him back to his true strength. Now, you do raise question marks with safety at that, and that's why we were all really kind of chomping at the bit for Earl Thomas. And, barring some unforeseen development, that's not happening, at least yet. Maybe it happens in the offseason if he stays free and doesn't sign a contract extension. But it's still a situation where the addition of Chris Richard, I think, is going to make the secondary better. I know Big Game James is huge on Kayvon Frazier, so it'll be really interesting to see how he can develop and what he can bring to the table. He's absolutely an enforcer, a hard hitter, but I do think, Chris Richard even mentioned regarding him that he has all of the physical tools and traits that Cam Chancellor has.
No doubt. And if you sprinkle in all that stuff right there, good points there, DDP, no doubt. And my thing is with this defense altogether, if you got guys playing explosive on the line, and then you have the DBs playing uptight on the line too as well, and uptight with the opposition, I think that if you couple that with the safety that we do have, I think that we still probably be formidable. But at the other end of it, I think that Stephen Jones is more so the guy saying, look, I'm not going to pull the trigger on the older Earl Thomas. And I think that Richard is like, okay, if you bring in Earl Thomas, he probably can elevate and show these younger guys what I'm looking for in his defense. But it's going to also, we need to have a watch out there of when Earl Thomas is going to report to camp, because if he don't report to camp in the next following days and weeks, it may be one of those things where we may go out and grab him just to help the Richard out on his defensive philosophy. What's your thoughts?
You think the Cowboys really going to get what's his name?
Earl Thomas.
Earl Thomas. You think they can really going to get him? Because
he's still holding out. Depends on how desperate he makes him.
No, I think you're right. I mean, I that was the point I was going to bring up is if he continues to, I mean, if he doesn't show up for training camp, now they're going to start talking. And I think the Cowboys, they thought about trading the second round pick this year for him, but when Connor Williams is still available, they'd rather have Connor Williams than Earl Thomas. Yep. And I think they offered the third, and the Seahawks said no. If Earl Thomas doesn't show up for training camp, Jerry's going to call him up and be like, hey, you want next year's third?
Yeah,
we'll
exactly.
See what happens. But Law, I'm with you, buddy. I think there is still a very, very – I mean, Earl Thomas said he was going to hold out unless he got a long-term deal. Well, Seattle's not giving him a long-term deal.
Right.
He's the last part of the Legion of Boom.
Yeah, so if he still holds out, then, yeah, the Cowboys will very much be in position to get him.
No doubt, man. Shout out to Jackie Smith in the house. And somebody said Gene Byram said NWO. Shout out to you too as well. I guess he's talking about your shirt, right?
That's right. Phantom is the new world order of sports media. So check us out at facebook.com/watch Phantom.
Yes, indeed.
I did the theme for you, but we'd get copyright flagged.
Yes, indeed, man. So do you guys have anybody that's in the chat box that you guys want to recognize? And
shout out Arturo Lugo on the Dallas Prospect Facebook. On YouTube chat, we also got Omar Oliveira. So we got some people in here still active, keeping the conversation going.
Right.
Who's some guys you guys got in chat?
Oh, man, we got tons. Showtime, man. What you got over there? Or you probably don't have it pulled up, huh?
There's an Eagles troll in the chat box. It's pissing everybody off.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow. They win one Super Bowl, and it's the end of the world, right? It's the end of the world.
Oh, I mean, they're just happy they can sit at the big boy table now. That's all it is.
Still looking up. They're looking up 4 times. Still looking up 4 more times, And that's the thing, you congratulate somebody for getting their first home, and you look at it as a starter home. And you say, okay, nice, that's good. Everybody got to use one restroom, But when you get a bigger house and you can walk around and you have multiple restrooms, multiple bathrooms, like that, stuff like that, multiple bedrooms, things like that, double, triple car garages. So, so shout out to the Eagles. They got their starter home.
So here's the deal about the Eagles, guys. How weird is it going to be? How weird is it going to be when they show up and Carson Wentz is there and he's healthy and Nick Foles is there? Like that's going to be weird. That's like I don't think. Everybody projects the Eagles to be, to win the NFC East again and to be in contention for the Super Bowl. And I certainly understand those arguments, but I think the dynamic of having a guy that just won the Super Bowl as your backup and having that's going to be
Super Bowl
very
MVP.
Difficult. That's right. Super Bowl MVP. It's going to be a very difficult situation for them to, that's just the dynamic, the psychology of it in that locker room. It's going to be interesting. If I were Howie Roseman, I would have traded Foles just for
the moon.
For the moon.
Yeah.
For the moon and just for the fact that I don't want to deal with that in my locker room because it's those guys are, I'm sure they're friends and they like each other, but it's just a weird dynamic. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens.
The crazy thing about everything, trust, it takes 1,000 years to build it, right? In 1 second to lose it. Mm-hmm. So if you think about this with Carson Wentz, the moment he passed multiple interceptions, that trust is going to be like, hey, somebody's going to start whispering.
You're right.
You're right. And then now it's going to be like an echo that sounds so loud that now the footsteps, even when somebody dive low, because Carson Wentz, he don't have the refs like the Tom Brady. Because Tom Brady, when he hurt himself, when people started diving low at his legs, he was already 3-time or 2-time champion at that point.
3-time.
3 times. So wow. So I don't think that Carson going to be able to get those calls. So when somebody started hitting them low, and I'm not advocating somebody to go out there and hit Carson Wentz low, but if you do it, it happens. It happens in the National Football League. But
I wonder how much this impacts how Carson plays his style, because he is a scrambling quarterback and he got hurt scrambling like that. I wonder if now, if you're Carson, you already had your backup go win the Super Bowl for you.
Wow.
Do you still have the boldness to go out there and scramble and risk another injury? It's like, the guy already won without me, won the whole thing. Do I want to risk another injury that puts me back on the shelf for any length of time if he's still here to walk back into the role for me, you know?
What do you guys think about the NFL rule changes? So they've they're basically doing away with kickoffs. Like, they're slowly but surely getting towards we're a few years away from, in the next 5 years there will be no more kickoffs in the NFL. But then there's the spearing penalty now, which is now a foul if you lead with your helmet as a tackler. Even if it's really egregious, you can get thrown out of the game, ejected from the game for it. What do you guys think about that?
I think Devin Hester's record is forever safe now.
Yeah, good point.
He'll make the Hall of Fame for sure. Like, he already probably was a sure-in, but now no one will beat it with these new rules.
Changes the strategy of how you. I mean, it fundamentally changes strategy in the NFL, where field position and kicking game and special teams was so important. Now, obviously, punt coverage, punt returners.
What is the actual rule for that kickoff? I didn't even read over on that one.
It's just all about positioning. Like, there's a bunch of minutia. Like, it's like you can only have a certain amount of guys in the line. It's just, there's no more wedge blocks, and most of it is just all about like how you have to have guys positioned. And I think that if the ball, you don't have to down it for it to be touchback now. If the ball is kicked into the end zone as a touchback, that doesn't have to be. So you can't even take it out of the end zone now.
Oh, wait a minute. So wait a minute. Hold on. So you mean to tell me if I get the ball somehow, some way, if I can get the ball into the end zone, it's automatic
touchback?
No way.
Automatic touchback when the ball's kicked there. They don't want returns. They do not want returns. What they want to do is they want to change the game to where they can say, hey, we're gonna not do kickoffs anymore. The ball's gonna start at the 25 or the 30, whatever it is, because 80% of kickoffs aren't being returned anyways. Like that, they're just trying to get to the mass, to the point where they could sell it to everybody that it's not gonna change much. It's already like this anyways.
Right.
You know what the football is, when you have one major deal that you try to change, you figure out what is the next major deal we're going to have to try to change. This lower the helmet, and I looked at that rule. Whoever leads first, whoever hit the helmet first, they're going to call that. And, the center and the nose tackle or anybody line up in the one, their helmet's going to hit regardless, especially if you're down there in the goal line. Who's going to have to shoot up the gaps. You're going to hit helmet. So are they going to call that every time, or is it going to be like a judgment call? Anybody know how that actually going to work?
So I think it's just on the tackler. It's just basically if the tackler lowers his head and what they want you to wrap up, right? Like, they don't want you to tackle with your helmet and spear into a guy. So short answer to your question, Law, is no. But like it sucks for defensive players, because
it's gonna be looking like Madden.
No, totally. I mean, because
it's gonna look like Madden.
Like, there are times when, and they showed examples of it, like a linebacker for the Colts, dove to tackle a receiver for the Jaguars, but at that time, the receiver spun. So whereas his back was turned to him, when he dove, by the time he got there, they met helmet to helmet because he spun at the time the Colts defender dove for him. So, like, what do you want to do? Like, that defies physics. That is physically impossible. So, it sucks for defenses. But I mean, as Cam pointed out, I mean, you're just going to see more and more offense. That's all it means.
Yeah, I'm always a defensive minded guy. And the thing is, what I don't like about the National Football League now, it's just kind of like baseball. You lower the mound, you move the mound up closer. Of course, you're going to see different stats and stuff like that, right? You get different type of bats, you see different stats. And everybody's saying, okay, this guy was the greatest and this sort of thing. But if you look at football in general, We see all of the quarterbacks getting just buku salaries now and getting glorified stats of 4,500 yards and 5,000 yards a season.
That's right.
And everybody thinking that, okay, this quarterback, and they have the nerves and the audacity to say, well, this guy is better than this guy who played in the 80s and the 90s or even the 70s. But the quarterback philosophy is totally entirely different. The wide receivers they can have now free release. They can run up the field without being pretty much touched at all. Pretty much, if you're a young guy, you're going to go to college or you playing football in high school, just play wide receiver. Play either a wide receiver or somewhere on the offensive side of the ball, and you can pretty much make it if you run fast. If you run a 4.4 or 4.3 or lower, you can make it to the National Football League because you're going to have a free release. And if you line up on the slot, you're really not going to have a guy that's jamming you, and you can just run straight up, run a dig, run your skinny post, and catch the ball, and not having no fear at all of going across the middle. Football used to be a way where it's, okay, you catch the ball across the middle, you're going to pay. You're going to pay if you come across this middle, and they don't have that no more. They took that completely out of the game. You would never hear of a running lot in this day and time. You'll never hear of a Steve Atwaters or Brock Marion or anybody. Dick Buckus. You don't have these names anymore because everybody is it's a 15-yard penalty or is it a $50 million, well, not $50 million, but a $5 million fine, things like that. It's crazy.
Shout out Daniel Meza on the chat as well.
Well, Jackie Smith says, why would these 32 owners agree to the rule changes if the changes aren't good? Which, Jack, it's a great question, but the answer is because it protects their bottom line. I mean, they were sued by former players for not doing enough to protect them against head injuries and concussions. And so that's why they're doing it so that in the future, if they're sued, they can say, we made these changes to try to make the game safer to protect the players. That's why. They're bad rules, but they have to do them. They don't want to get rid of kickoffs, but they have to now because there's more concussions at the kickoff than anything else.
Yeah.
Well, Ari, let me ask you this right here. If you go out and you say, okay, I'm gonna sign up for a job to work in a coal mine, right? Can you say that you have a higher propensity or a higher chance to catch some type of lung cancer because you're in a coal mine? There should be some type of notion to know that. If you decided, nobody forcing these NFL players to go sign up for this sport, right? And I do know that it's up to the owners to provide some type of safety, but you just cannot go say, okay, I'm gonna go sign up for maybe off-seas or overseas oilman guy, right? The guy that work on the ship for like 4 or 5 months, and say, well, I now want to sue the ship guy because I'm spending 4 to 6 months out there at sea and I'm having problems trying to rehabilitate myself when I get back to the land. You see, it just doesn't work that way. I think that these owners should sit everybody down and say, okay, if you decide to play for the NFL, these are the risks that you're going to have to occur. These are the risks that's out there.
I completely
wrong?
agree with
I'm
you.
just being crazy saying this.
No.
Nobody's putting a gun to anybody's head saying, hey, put on this uniform and play football.
Well, and I think you're right, Law. I mean, no question. And I think, when you look at the older players, I mean, the Mike Ditkas of the world, right? Like guys, even the last, couple of decades where they just played a different style, the intimidation style you're talking about. They say they didn't really know the risks, maybe, but if you play today, you know the risks.
You know it, right?
So I think 100% correct. And Law, like you hit the nail on the head, man. Like this used to be a game about intimidation, right? Like it is just it's the offense intimidating the defense. And when you take off the ability for guys to just pop guys for going over the middle or to play that physical style, you are now putting more of the intimidation on the offensive side. So it's like, it used to be 50-50. Mm-hmm. Now it's like, 70-30. Where the defense can't be as intimidating as it used to be able to be, because that's the name of the game, right? Like football at its core is just about like when you get hit in the mouth, are you willing to get up? And Ronnie Lott used to hit fools; they weren't getting up.
Yeah,
that's the basic.
I don't know. Somebody got their house turned up, man. Turn your house down.
I don't know.
Yes, indeed.
It's downstairs. It's all the way downstairs.
Okay. Turn the house down.
You can hear that.
Man, I can hear everything, man. But
hell turned up.
I think Cam was about to have to sign off here in a moment. If I don't know if we wanted to go a few minutes more or something. I think G's prepping that adjustment. So hang on just a moment, Cam. So we touched earlier on the Zack Martin thing. I think all there is really left to say on that subject is just, I think Ari, as brief as you were on it, I think that's really all there is to say. It's not, he's holding out, yeah, but it's just until they secure a long-term deal. And if you're a player, it's not that he's frustrated. It's not that he's unhappy. It's just that your only asset to protect is your own body, essentially. Right. So you have to do that in that situation because, I mean, hell, we touched earlier on Sean Lee. Look at Sean Lee, first day of OTAs a couple of years ago, tore his ACL, and he was done for the year. If Zack Martin were to suffer a devastating injury like that before getting paid, he wouldn't get paid near the same value. So he's going to get a ridiculously handsome contract, and he's earned every penny of it. But for now, it's not a big deal that he's sitting out. And in fact, I would have been surprised if he had been there without the extension being reached. And it sounds like they're really close, so hopefully they'll get him out there sometime, start of next week, maybe they sign something over the weekend. But yeah, he should be going nowhere. He's been nothing but phenomenal for them since they took him.
He'll be the highest paid guard in the NFL by August at the latest.
Yep, 100% agree.
Yeah, well, it's going to be, a nice thing for us to have. We got pretty much blue chip players across the offensive line. But the only chip that I want is a championship. So we got to figure out a way. When we pay Zack Martin, I know we're going to have a lot of money left over. We're going to have to figure out a way that Dak Prescott is going to have to craft in a good old hometown discount, just like the Tom Brady's, because I have my conspiracy theory on Tom Brady's contract. We don't have enough time on the show for me to break that part down. We're going to have to figure out some way to get Dak Prescott for some more cheap years, because we got to pay Zeke.
Yeah, I don't know that they're going to get Dak too cheap. It sounds like they're more than ready and willing to pay him after this year. So I don't know what we're looking at in terms of Dak contract, but it's going to be probably. I mean, if you got it at $20 million a year, I would say that's a little more than I would probably like to go right now, but I would say that's a good deal for them. I feel like it's probably going to be in the 25 region, honestly, based on how they're talking and, what his numbers are.
No doubt. Cam, man, final thoughts for you, man, on this deal, man. What's your thoughts on this deal?
Man, we just need to go ahead and pay the man. We need him, because, we don't need no Chaz Green. We don't need somebody that's going to somebody running through him like an open door, We don't need that. So we just need. I just feel like we just need to go ahead and pay him and stop waiting.
Do you think Dallas should give Dak like 20 to 25 million a year, like in his new contract?
Man,
I mean, just ballpark.
That pause right there speaks everything. So the thing is with this,
that speaks a lot.
It speaks volume. So we'll see what Dak Prescott is going to do this year.
Yeah, because we got to see what's going to happen this year. Because he had a good year his first year. His second year, it was still good, but
started good, getting off the rails late. Yeah.
Yeah. So we need to see this year to figure out, to pay him a bunch of money. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So I think we should just, pump the brakes a little bit.
Sure.
See what he can do this year, and then go from there. Just like look at Zack Martin. He knows. He's he know he worth all the money. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So because he's coming off that rookie contract. So I would say about 20 a year.
Yeah, that's what I would like based on that, but we'll see how it works out. Cam, thanks for joining us on the show tonight. Hopefully we can do it again soon. I know this was kind of your first kind of foray into doing one of these shows, but we'd like to have you on certainly in the future as well.
Oh yeah, I can't wait, man. So next time, be more prepared for y'all.
No worries, man. No worries.
Good, man.
All right,
man. Salute,
Thanks
man.
for joining us, man.
Hey,
Salute.
crawl into the fire. That's what I'm talking about.
Later, Cam.
All right, then, guys. Thank you.
All right, Chief. All right.
Cool.
So that's cool, man. What's the next topic before we go?
Let me just say on
the anthem. Yeah,
let me just say on Dak real quick.
Go ahead.
It's going to be more than 20.
Yeah,
it's going to be more
than
than 25.
Yeah.
I mean, Kirk Cousins is getting 30, isn't he?
Wow.
Yeah, but Kirk Cousins has a lot more skins on the wall.
Yeah. Well,
I think
Kirk Cousins haven't beat Dak Prescott in 2 years, nor the Cowboys in 3, I think. So
yeah, it's so the good thing here is the Cowboys won't have to pay Tony Romo after this year. They've had all this dead money that's gone for
their cap situation is looking good for next year.
Right, because Romo, Dez, and Nolan Carroll, who they still have dead money for, will all be off the books. So they will basically have no dead money, for some of these big albatross contracts they've had. So they'll have the money, but the going rate for a starting quarterback whose contract is up is 25 to 30 million a year.
Yeah, let alone a guy that won offensive rookie of the year and won 13 games as a starter, best rookie year of all time.
Yeah. I agree. This year is going to be. This year is everything. So it's a good thing they don't have to pay him. Make the contract after before this year. But it'll be a big year. And obviously, if you're a Cowboy fan, you want him to have a big year so that they will pay him. And if he has a big year and they go to the playoffs, it's 25 to 30 million easy.
Yeah, probably. That's probably what we're looking at. I have some people asking, I don't know how much we want to go into it, but people are asking on the anthem ruling that came down, just our general thoughts on that. What do you guys think?
Ari, you can go ahead and
pass the hot potato.
I think the NFL did $14 billion in revenue last year. That's profits. $14 billion in profits.
Yep.
11 of the top 20 television events, highest rated television events, 11 of the top 20 were NFL games. That's not just sports, that's all television. 11 of the top 20 were TV events or were NFL games. So there's no metric that says that the NFL, had issues with the anthem last year. Like there's nothing they can point to that says, well, when teams kneel for the anthem, we had, we lost money on our bottom line or we lost fans. This seemed stupid from a standpoint of every time they talk about the anthem, they're bringing up Kaepernick. Yeah. And if they didn't want to talk about Kaepernick, well, every time they talk about this policy, every time somebody breaks the policy, every time and that's going to happen, right? Like players are going to break this policy, the teams are going to be fined, there's going to be major controversy, and that just brings up more opportunities for the media to bring up Colin Kaepernick. So it seems like they wouldn't want that, right? Like they kind of want Kaepernick gone and suppressed. So it doesn't make any sense to me. They're bathing in cash. They have great TV ratings. It made no sense. They didn't have to do anything, in my opinion.
Yeah. So the NFL made $1 billion more this year than they have in any other year. And we're talking about a situation, like you said, I don't think this would have really been much of a story this year if they had just left it alone.
Agreed.
Now, things might have kind of continued on as they were a little bit, but the further you get from the story and talking about it, the more likely things are to kind of start to kind of come back around where some of that viewership that left, maybe if things go quiet, they start to kind of creep back. I don't know. But here's the problem that I have with it. It doesn't make either side really happy. Like, it's drudging the story back out there. So the people who are upset at any protest of the anthem, they're still going to be upset because you're going to have players still protesting the anthem because now it's established if you stay in the locker room, that's protesting the anthem. So you're still going to have protesting of the anthem. You're just not going to see it on that. We're still going to have the cameras pinpointed on the anthem and going down the line, seeing who's there, who's not. And for the people who support the protest, they're upset because it feels like, they're peaceful, the players' platform, their voice is being silenced in the sense that their peaceful protest is being essentially denied. And it felt very reactionary by the NFL. They didn't even collaborate they made it sound like in their statement that they collaborated with the players union. Players union came out and said they weren't even consulted about any of it. So it's a dictatorship move, and I get it. It's a private run business in that regard. So they ultimately are the final say on what they do and don't do. But all they did was drudge this back into the headlines, and I really feel like make a decision that makes no one happy and only makes them look kind of more dictatorship-ish.
Yeah, you can't put people in boxes. And the thing is, when you're talking about protesting in general, right? Protesting is designed to be an uneven task, right? I mean, we go back to any times of the history when you protest, meaning that you're going against the grain. The United States was founded on protest. One can argue that if anybody can look up history, totally. The United States was pretty much found on protest. So if you look at the whole nature of what they're talking about, getting back to football, and if they really want to get back to football, then they ought to go back to 1999, 1998, or I think right before 2005. Have everybody in the back,
2009.
2009. See,
2009 was the first
year that
want
to get back to football.
The armed forces paid the NFL extra to have the players out there as a means of a recruiting method by having the show of patriotism and all that. That was 2009. So,
and then we can go back and forward about police brutality, racial inequalities. We can talk about that, and then we can go back and talk about T. Will. You saw how drunk he was, and his face landing on the side of the sidewalk. Anybody knows in their right mind that the police officer in Frisco probably saved this man's life.
Probably, yeah.
So we look at police officers. I look at it from a different view of things, and shout out to all of the armed troops out there and the soldiers, because the message never was about what Colin Kaepernick was doing, was never about disrespecting the flag or disrespecting the troops and things like that. But one thing I will say, Colin Kaepernick did dig a hole in the grave when he put on the socks with the pigs on it. You see?
Yeah, that wasn't good for his messaging at all.
So, and the media have to do their job. So they put him in a box and they said, okay, his message for the people, because the people that look like me, is this, in which it never was the message, you see. So now everything is convoluted, everything is thrown out of the place, and now you have the bickering back and forth with these guys are kneeling and these guys are doing this and disrespecting the flag. All the NFL had to do was either, for one, hush their mouth and let just play football, or for two, go back to 2008 and 2009 and have everybody in the back. Because I kind of like when Ray Lewis used to get out there and start doing this little walk before the football game. Because at the end of the day, I don't think nobody's stopping. I don't think nobody at the house. Come on, let's be real. Let's be real. Everybody in the chat box, everybody who's going to send me hate mail after this. I don't think you guys are stopping what y'all doing and standing up when they playing the national anthem at the house. I don't think you stop serving the drinks. I don't think you stop drinking the liquor while you're out there in the bars and things like that. So let's just call a spade a spade. All of this stuff is just propaganda. It's foolish to me. They need to just go back to 2008, 2009, or whatever those seasons were, and just have everybody run out in unison, because that's the point of being a uniform, right? You play in the uniform to unify everybody on the team, meaning that I can't say that I play for the Dallas Cowboys and I want to wear a blue jersey while everybody wearing white. It just don't work that way, right? So that's what the National Football League should be about. Everybody being on one page, beating from one drum. Everybody's out there ready to hit the other person out beside them, things like that, the opposition. But no, the NFL was too soft. And if anybody want to know who's who pretty much called them out, was the Golden State Warriors coach. I've got his name, Steve Kerr. Steve Kerr. He called out the NFL. And he said pretty much these guys are pretty much soft, basically. And that's all I have to say.
Well said, Law. Very well said. The other thing too is like the flag and the national anthem, it's symbolism. So the issue here is like there's 350 million people in America. So the flag and the anthem means 350 million different things, 350 million people. And that's the issue, right? Like, you can make legitimate arguments that the right to kneel The right to free speech and protest is the foundation of what makes this country great. And you'd be right. But you could also argue that if you serve the armed forces, that you're offended by it. And you'd be right. So that's the issue here. You're right. The intention was not to disrespect those members of the armed forces, but there were people of the armed forces that were and felt disrespected. And that's the issue is you have 350 million people in this country. And so you have 350 million opinions on what that symbolism means to them. And that's the broad issue. But I also think, like a lot of your point, protests are supposed to be uncomfortable. You're supposed to, and the thing about Kaepernick is like you're supposed to have something to lose. Muhammad Ali was an activist and he had everything to lose and he lost it. He lost his career and the prime of his career for protesting. When LeBron James walks out the ESPYs and says, he's protesting, he doesn't have anything to lose. He's just going out there. It's PR. But Kaepernick's message means more, has more validity and strength because he lost it. He lost what he had. And he's good enough to play in the NFL now. He's not playing because he called out cops and he called out corrupt cops. But the problem is no cop is gonna look at themselves in the mirror and say they're a bad cop. But that's why he's not playing. That's why he's not playing because of his protest. And to me, a protest is more effective when you have everything to lose. And it becomes even more effective now with this policy because every time this policy comes up, Colin Kaepernick's name's going to come up, and the protest and the reason for the protest will come up. So the message will persist even if the guy with the message isn't there to persist. And by the way, if Colin Kaepernick was playing in the NFL, he'd be conforming, so his message would be dying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that was what we were hearing last year was if he was signed that he wasn't going to continue kneeling. Now, I have seen something within the last few weeks suggesting the opposite of that this year, that he wouldn't be willing to stop. But last year, there were reports of that. So I don't know where it would go. I feel like the fact that they keep trying to kind of push it off to the side and disregard it is what makes it get louder and louder. And if he was signed somewhere, like you said, it would die down. You might have noise for a little bit, but we're talking 3-4 weeks of noise before things kind of return to normal, more or less, compared to, what are we, 2 years into this whole thing, going on 3 years. And you're not winning if you're the NFL in this case. Like, your pocketbooks aren't hurting, but for all the things you say you're doing this for, it just doesn't make sense. You're not making a decision. You're worried about the slight dip in ratings, but all of television's having that just because of cord cutting and all of that.
Totally.
Right.
And so it's not concrete. Yes, the people who are leaving the NFL who are no longer watching it because specifically of that issue. Yeah, I believe that has some, merit and impact as to the slight dip in the ratings, but I think it's just a small part of a bigger issue, the bigger issue being the cord cutting thing. So NFL basically decided that they were more concerned with what they perceived to be losing from those viewers than what they would lose from the people upset with their new ruling about the player staying in the locker room. But you're still going to have guys doing something. You're going to have guys like tweeting photos of them during the anthem, kneeling in the locker room or something. Like, all it's going to do is change the method. It's not going to change that there are protests.
I agree.
Yes, indeed, man. So, hey, reason why I say salute on all of my videos, my father, he fought for this country. He taught me just deep down things that I would never, ever be disrespectful for a woman. I always shake a man's hand standing up, look a man in his eye, do a strong grip, never shake a man with a wet hand. You see, those are things, those values, those morals, never enter a room and not speak. I do know that I have chivalry is not dead, things like that. And this good system that we live in, this wonderful world that we live in, a lot of that we lost somehow. We got people walking around just being disrespectful just because you have a different view of an opinion. I always say this: those convinced against their will is of the same opinion still. And I say these things not to just try to out-talk someone, right? But I say these things because I come from a different ilk, and I do know that sometimes I get loud on here and I probably say the She-Goals or the Redskins, Deadskins, or the Vagiants, whatever, but I really don't Technically, I'm just being funny with them. I would still say that if I meet an Eagles fan, I would still buy you a beer. Just like the guy that's in the chat box, I would still buy you a beer if we in the bar together. It's there's no like I'm hatred towards my heart towards anybody, and I think that the National Football League has drove home on that by just continue to have these type of policies. All they have to do is listen to what the players have to say about those issues and just say, okay, this is what we're going to do. And we're going to just go back to 2008 or what have you, and that's the bottom line, because you can't force people to feel a certain way.
I think the only problem with trying to go back to the 2008, 2009 model where the anthem didn't have the players out there like at all. I feel like if you were to not play the anthem, which wasn't the case before then, no, that's not true. You had the anthem, I think, in 1945. So if they went back to the 2009 model, though, I feel like that would feel like
the players won, right?
Yeah, that's what the perception would be, that the NFL caved to the players, and all the people who were mad at them for feeling like there was disrespect would then feel that there's more justification for that anger, and the backlash might be worse. I feel like something had to be done. This just wasn't the method that made sense because, as I mentioned, they didn't even consult the players' union. So it's absolutely a top-down decision, and yet they use words like collaboration and things like that. When the players' union's we didn't even know this was happening.
Instead of beating around the bush, and I know we've been long-winded on this. I know we got to go produce a G, probably been up all night. But I'm going to say this one thing. King Solomon, there was a debate about a baby that a lady took from another woman. And he said to end this debate, what we are going to do is we'll saw the baby in half, and you get to keep one half of the baby. The other lady keep the other half of the baby, right? And the mother said, no, you can have the child. The NFL should have looked like the mother and use wisdom in this situation, knowing that they cannot appease everyone, knowing that 85% of the players that play in the National Football League looks like me. You see what I'm saying? And we don't have the voices of being the owners or being able to have the purchasing power to have $1 billion go buy a franchise. We don't have that type of cash today. We don't have that type of money. So the NFL should have took the highest of the highest road and say, you know what? I know we can't change the complexity. We can't change the United States of America. We know that this is the land of the free, home of the brave. But for this guy to stand out and show up and stand on what his morals are, or what he feels, all these guys that's in San Francisco, all these guys that's on these other teams are doing all these protesting. For them, because we already made $14 billion, for them, we would just go ahead and go back to the ways that it used to be. If we still have the American anthem, we still have people standing, but the players be in the background. That's all I have to say with that,
Yeah. Well said.
Well said, brother. That's a good ending point right there. King Solomon, man, that's good. That's good stuff, right? That's deep. That's perfect. I mean, you're right. You wish the NFL would have taken the high road, but instead the NFL, they will take as much as they can. Take. And that's the nature of the beast, I guess.
Yep.
Yes, indeed. So, Ari, tell them where they can find you at again.
Check me out on Facebook at facebook.com/Watch Phantom. I'm broadcasting daily, showtime at 12 noon Central Time on Phantom, on Law Nation's Facebook page, on the Dallas Prospect Facebook page as well. So check us out there. And hopefully, Law, you'll have me back, brother.
Oh yeah, we're gonna have it really going, man. We just wait for it. DDP, man, tell them about it.
Check out the website, DallasProspect.com, your home for Dallas sports and pop culture. We got gaming, film reviews, music, do a lot of stuff with the Dallas music scene and all that as well. Interviews and all that. We're just keep growing and see where we can go from here. But check us out on Facebook and on YouTube, the Dallas Prospect.
Yes, guys, and don't forget about Silver and Blue Nation too as well. This platform is everywhere, and don't forget about Big Game James. Guys, the best thing that you guys can ever do is share this page, like the comments, and just tell people about the content that we put out. It's been a long, long journey for us to put everything together, and just don't forget it too as well. Every legend was once a prospect. Don't forget that, guys. Everything, you have to start off from somewhere, right? That's been our time. I really thank you guys for yours. And remember, you guys are listening to Nothing But the Bass. Salute. We're out.
Salute.
Peace.
Peace.
Very nice.